Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hot Topics, our volunteer leadership sessions, how we build up our skills and lead our whole teams. I'm Salva Pleviyama, your disaster workforce engagement manager, and you'll see we have quite a few faces that are joining me today. This is because we are talking about best practices on how we onboard two of our most critical teams in the organization, our disaster action team and our sheltering teams. Both of these are about the services we provide the community when disaster strikes, and one that we need to ensure that we do right every single time. So we're combining some of the talking points that we've been discussing in previous weeks, the onboarding 101 that Curtis led, the communication strategies that we did last week, and just overall engagement and getting direct feedback from some of our volunteer leaders on how they support and envision helping new volunteers. So before we do that, let me, we always do spotlights, mission moments from the field. And I actually want to highlight these four individuals for our mission moments this week because all of you are invited to be panelists because you've been doing great work on helping build capacity, identify what we could be doing better, and supporting the mission. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves. We'll go back to talking about like some of our situational awareness that we always do before we get into the full panel discussion. But I want to use this opportunity to introduce you all. I am joined by uh, Stephen Dominguez. Stephen, do you want to say hello? And how did you get involved with the organization? What do you do?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Dominguez. I'm a volunteer based out of the New Orleans area. I've been with the Red Cross since maybe October or November of last year, so still relatively new, but dove in feet head first, whatever the saying is, to really get involved with everything I possibly can. One of the big roles that I've been really getting into is DDO and DAT cross training and upskilling, just trying to understand where we can build capacity in that area of the work being done by our Red Cross volunteers. I work really closely with James Proctor as well as Joe Norton, who's also a panelist here with me today. And we're really excited to talk about some of the big things that we have working on in the background and how we can keep building up this DAT program and DDO program to be really robust here in Louisiana.
Excellent. And since you called out his name, Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joe Norton. I been around pretty much forever, 21 years. Most of that time is in mass care and sheltering up until about 5 or so years ago, maybe six now. Currently at the region level, a pretty active DAT duty officer, which I'm actually on a shift right now. I don't think someone might have got that info. But I'm glad to be here. And also, the last 5 years or so, I've been active DAT responder in my home DRA of Cap area.
Excellent. Yeah, really showing that dedication of that volunteer spirit. Thank you, Joe. And next, we'll go to our sheltering leaders. Let's start with on here is Sharon Joy.
Hi, I'm Sharon Joy, living in Natchitoches. So I am in the Cenla and also the North area. I've been working with the Red Cross right now for about a little over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. And I work in both sheltering and DAT, which is a great perspective, and I recommend that for anybody, any volunteer leader to really have their foot in both areas. I've been on as a DAT, as a shelter supervisor. I've been on a couple of out-of-state deployments and in-state deployments. Um, and I lead the North El Serve team, which I'm working to rebuild actually at this week, and I'm also a DAT supervisor and duty officer. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Excellent. And Judith, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Sava, for the invitation. I've been involved with Red Cross since 2018. I was a partner deployed volunteer through the Return Peace Corps Volunteer Association. And Stephen is also a Return Peace Corps volunteer. So I am based in the New Orleans area. I actually live in St. Bernard Parish. My primary work right now is sheltering and casework and SRT. So like Sharon said, the casework that I do and working with DAT responders is very helpful in understanding sheltering. And my new research focus, I'm sure you're all be glad to hear, is on poverty in America. And so I'm trying to understand the grassroots of poverty because a lot of the people that we work with are disenfranchised in that area. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. And that really shows you the mindset of a great leader is thinking about growth, thinking about where our services are needed and how we can best serve our community. And what I love about the panel that has agreed to take up here today is that you all come from a vast, varied experience. Some super new, but making a huge headway and impact onto our programs. Some long-time dedicated volunteers that have seen different phases of what we've gone through. And then people that have experience that are related but not quite Red Cross and how to bridge that information over. All of you are really show our volunteers, supervisors, our leaders that you don't need to have a long breadth of Red Cross experience. If you do, you can leverage that to support. But it's all about your different experiences and your mindset of like how you can best support and build our capacity. So I'm excited to engage in this conversation with all of you, and we have a few questions to really get those wheels turning. But before we get into that, let's do some quick situational updates about where we're at right now, what's happening in our region there. So, of course, our workforce is the heartbeat of our mission. And right now, we haven't had too much of a change from last week to today. We still have about 541 volunteers that make up our organization, with 370 having done something in the past 90 days. That is 70% of the workforce. So we actually held pretty consistent from last week to this week. But they have been really active in going out and making the mission work, whether it is taking trainings, attending meetings, going out into the community, connecting with partners. So we've actually grown 2% of our hours, making a progress towards our hours goal. So really showing that our volunteers are out there doing the work. We have had more people get new gaps and trained. They are all in gaps that we have teams situated. So even though it looks like there's been no change from last week to this week, we have had new people get multiple gaps. Shout out to the casework team that I think they got like 2 new people trained in casework. So it just not reflected here because we have that team fulfilled, at least on the gap side. We still need so many more caseworkers. But our focus this month is still on the day-to-day operations, including DAT, which a lot of our onboarding academies are focusing on, with DAT, Disaster Action Team Response Fundamentals, and then more building up instructors so that we can reach even more and train more responders next year as well. So I'll be traveling up to Shreveport to help with that. And we just got confirmation. Sounds like everyone that is interested in becoming an instructor is good with the Shreveport location on Wednesday, June 17th. All right. So our panelists, thank you all so much for coming here as we talk about the on-ramp for DAT and sheltering, how we can empower our volunteers to touch the mission at the earliest possible level and really ensure that they are going to stick with the program, becoming the responders of tomorrow. I have a question for all of you first. we know the official training window, as we talked about in onboarding, one of the past presentation, is 90 days. We want volunteers to get all of their training, get in touch with their team, and promote to being team members in at least 3 months. But that's a long time to just be in limbo if they're just sitting there. So, in your experience, what is one thing a supervisor can do in the first 2 weeks to make a trainee feel like they're part of the team, even if they haven't started their online courses? Um, Anyone can take this first.
I'll go first. Call me. Introduce yourself. What are you up to? Everybody's shaking their head, right, Stephen and Sharon? So keep me engaged that way. If you get my voicemail, leave me a detailed voicemail message. Your name, who you're with, what the call is about. When you hang up, send me a text message. Judith just gave you a call. This is from the Red Cross. Looking forward to our chat. That will encourage me to listen to my voicemail message. So it's a double whammy at the same time. And don't give up. If they don't respond to either one of those, 5 days later, do the same thing. It's a pulse, they call it. So it's pulsing with volunteer.
I have one, Sava.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, I just want to piggyback on that. Yes, communication is really, really important, phone calls and emails, etc. I would also encourage some online meetings. And understand that these new trainees, while they are very eager and enthusiastic, they also have busy lives. So we want them to know that we're here for them, but we don't want to overwhelm them. I also have a suggestion about schedule as far as sheltering trainees go, is to try to schedule a meeting at a proposed shelter site.
Ooh.
With a group of new shelter trainees, and do a little walkthrough with them, and then go out to lunch so that there's some social time. Team building is really important. It's important that they get to know other volunteers, even at the earliest stage of involvement.
Love that. A really great, like, taking in what Judah said, making that phone conversation, connecting as early as possible, and then also seeing when can we schedule to go out and see what a shelter site could be, and building camaraderie. Love it. Joe, you had ideas for DAT.
Yes, it kind of applies really across the board related to what Sharon had said too, is that keeping in mind that our volunteers are a varied demographic. Some of them are retired, some of them work a full-time job, and everything in between. So I believe it's important to make that contact with them relatively early on and say, okay, so you work, try to figure out a good time to connect with them. Because if you're calling them in the middle of a busy workday, that's probably not going to work out very well. And also, as far as the training, getting them in the pipeline with the training, we can assign them their training, or, I guess it's important. I'm a retired computer person, and I try to keep in mind that not everybody does computers, and so I believe it's important to not just give them what they need to do to start their training, but also maybe walk them through Edge a little bit. It doesn't come intuitively necessarily on how to navigate Edge to get themselves enrolled and that kind of thing. And I believe I'm gonna call on Stephen to talk about DAT responders and how we can get them involved earlier on. Like he was saying, and Simon mentioned in this slide about there are things they can do on the front end. I believe the latest thing is what's called a DAT observer, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think getting out front of the idea of like you have to be fully gapped in order to go onto a call for a DAT responder is not necessarily true. You can bring them along in the observer status. They won't be able to take a token to actually implement the intake for a case, but they can get some on the ground experience pretty much from day one. They can really dive in and get to see how the process is right away. That'd be incumbent upon the supervisor to pair them up either with themselves if they're going to go into a call, or with another experienced DAT responder who would be willing to take them under their wing for a given period of time. However it may be, just communicate that with the duty officers and we can make sure that they're going to be on any event that as it comes. But in general, for just support, supervisors, I think, do a great job of like doing that initial meet, either virtually or via phone call with their volunteers. But in order to keep that ball rolling, I think a big thing is to kind of understand the rationale as to which they are choosing and motivated to volunteer. Are they going to do this because they want to give back to their community, because of maybe they have experienced some kind of disaster event and they saw the Red Cross and it helped them, they want to give back. Maybe they're doing this for some kind of service requirement. Maybe they're doing this because they want access to community. Maybe they just want to upskill for a job. Whatever it may be, people are going to have different motivations. And when we understand that, we can begin to tailor the way that we build that communication to make volunteers early on know what they can do, how they can do it, and to be involved from like an intrinsic component as well, not just waiting to hear around from a supervisor saying, you're ready to go on your first call in 3 months. It's continually inviting them to these types of meetings, getting them to raise their hand and jump into a blue sky event, whatever it may be. We need to take the time to build that intentional relationship early on.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm feeling inspired just hearing that, like, I wanted to get back out into a DAT response myself if I wasn't restricted because I'm RC care authorizer. But still, that I love that mindset, just being invited, knowing that that opportunity is available. So I love that question, Joe, that you bounced off of Stephen. So let me ask our sheltering team as well, Sharon and Judith. As sheltering can also feel very abstract. It's like this nebulous thing of what we do when a sheltering event actually happens. So what is one way that you think we can keep our sheltering trainees engaged and warm during blue sky before that disaster strikes, especially if like it's a long period of just waiting and there's not very many sheltering disasters that happen in their area?
You know, the event that we did at VCOM, which was a shelter simulation, was really wonderful. And so those types of simulation exercises are great to involve new trainees. Yeah, and also in an idea of having online meetings with a group of trainees, I'm thinking about having roundtable discussions so that we invite experienced shelter workers to come share photos of their experience and share their experiences and answer questions. And then ask the volunteers why they want to do this, because it's important to acknowledge that they're important. They're not that they be active participants.
I love that both you and Stephen brought up like the motivations of the volunteers, and like our role as volunteer supervisors is to know our team, why they want to be a part of, and keep on connecting with their motivations. Judith, did you have something you want to add?
Sure. I believe in hands-on. Yeah. Offer a warehouse tour. Show them where the supplies are, how they're calculated, how they're shipped out, how they're loaded. Also, tours of approved shelters in the local region. This is a shelter. This is where the dormitory would be. This is where perhaps a kitchen would be. This is how we set up smoking, non-smoking. This is where we set up reception and wine. This is a good place for the signs. Just walk them through the place where they might be working. Also, a tour of the trailers. If you're going to work in a shelter, you're going to unload from the trailer. What does a trailer look like? What's the mandatory list of supplies that you have?
I love that. Connecting with our other activities, the logistics team, like, hey, let's go through a warehouse. Just getting that tangible idea of like, so that's not so ephemeral, it's not so a nebulous idea of sheltering. You're getting them tangible. I love that, the hands-on experience. So let me turn back to our full panel again before we switch to our next topic. Thinking back to when you yourself was a trainee, what was the turning point that made you feel like you were an active participant instead of someone that was just clicking through screens on Edge and Volunteer Connection? Let's start with our DAT team, as like that's our usually our local entry point. So uh, Stephen, you were the most recent person that was a trainee.
Yeah, so I think that what really helped me like transition from being a trainee who's taking a ton of edge courses into someone that felt confident enough to join all these meetings and to take on more activities and feel invested was early on with my discussions with my direct manager. It was like, okay, well, what are the things I'm interested in? And then let's put together a little project that you can do while you're in training. Like I started on the DDO track, and this is before we've tinkered with that training pathway quite a bit at this point, and now we have a lot more shadowing that's done early on. At that time, also, there were other projects that were helping to flesh out what this program is going to be looking like to retain volunteers. And I got to be a part of that process. And that really helped me feel like I had ownership and a stake within building capacity. So I think finding and identifying people who might have an interest beyond just, okay, for 4 to 8 hours a week, I'm going to just sit on a phone. Well, in your downtime, what else are you doing to keep thinking about Red Cross, the humanitarian principles, the work that we're trying to do in terms of delivering service and care to our clients? I mean, when you begin to have that mindset, I think that you begin to have more ideas about how I can do my job more effectively, communicate that to my partners, the people that are training me, the people I'm now training, and you begin to feel like, yeah, I have ownership. I know what I'm doing, and I'm excited by that. So I think really being able to stoke that fire in your volunteer trainees really will help with the retention aspect and get them motivated to take on more and more.
Brilliant. Uh, Joe, I know it's been a while since you were an official new Red Cross trainee, but you're always engaging in new activities. You're constantly cross training, becoming a trainee again and again. So yeah,
Yeah.
same question, but from a different
Yeah,
perspective.
I was just thinking about that. It's one of those deals as far as training and transitioning into other positions and gaps. For me, there was a tornado outbreak in the New Orleans area, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, and I was assigned to the disaster assessment team. And I actually believe that Sava actually was involved in giving me a super DA boot camp to get me gapped so that I could go do some assessments in the New Orleans area. And some of those trainings, uh, as a lot of us know already, a lot of the front end trainings apply to several different areas and positions. So that kind of got me thinking, well, obviously the Red Cross is not just mass care sheltering. And so that's kind of what moved me over and motivated me to have a bigger picture kind of outlook and to be a little and it's really helped to have that broader view. I didn't really, to be honest, I mean, I knew there was this thing, DAT, and I knew people went and helped with people who had fires and trees in their house, but it was all kind of a little bit mysterious to me for a while. And I really had no clue about we're going to get to, I think, the transition between a DAT response and a shelter can be. I had no clue how all that interrelated. Um, at the beginning. So, and to be honest, I think one of the stigmas that we also probably would help to focus on is the safety aspect of that response. Because I have a feeling, we can get people that are all excited and doing the training, but just to help them understand that they don't have to be put in an unsafe position.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure people feel comfortable and safe at all times.
Right.
Which, yeah, as we talk about scaling up, which we're going to have a bigger discussion about scaling up in just a second, but talking about scaling up, going into sheltering, uh, let's go to Judith. What made you feel like you were no longer a trainee and more active in the sheltering program?
It was deployment, going actually out on a deployment. And so I take that experience of mine and encourage the people that I'm working with, the volunteers that I'm working with, if you can only come for a day, if you can only come for 4 hours, that's okay. Get them in the door. When they walk in that door, everything solidifies. Things make sense. There is processes in place and their training can be applied. So encouraging people, like Joe was saying, work with their schedules. Don't anticipate a full 2-week commitment. If they can only come for a day and they're your trainee, work with them on the time schedule that they have. It does take time, but that investment is going to pay off in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's kind of a superstition, at least with the Red Cross staff, that if there's a disaster within your first 90 days of accepting the employment, you're going to stick around a lot, because it really does take all the what's the word that I keep on forgetting? The abstract and making it concrete. I see that's a theme for you, Judith, is about making that hands-on experience memorable. Sharon.
For me, turning points, I was committed from the beginning of my training, but specific turning points didn't happen until I was out there in the field doing something. I first went on a DA ride-along with Wesley Brownlee and Shane for a full day after tornadoes, and actually saw the destruction and spoke to some of the clients. And being with those seasoned volunteers, watching them interact with clients, with each other, really helped me. And then I spent my first night as an overnight shelter worker down in Baldwin during one of those hurricanes a couple of years ago, and met volunteers who came from other states. But actually being there was important. It actually doing it and being there is the most important thing. And so we need to, I totally agree with Judith. We need to give volunteers opportunities. I mean, I had buy-in at the beginning, but as far as sheltering went, I had to be there. And my first out-of-state deployment in Florida during Hurricane Milton, that was really when I felt, okay, now I'm doing something.
We call those mission moments, where you get to see the impact that you're making, the impact of the disaster, and that call to action that all of us feel when we first sign up to volunteer with the Red Cross. And yeah, just getting out there, updating your disaster availability, going out for a 4-hour shift if you can. All of those are ways of really making it real. All right, I know we're already over, but I want to spend a little bit of time as we talk about adding concreteness to this nebulous process. Talk about the scaling up process. Our disaster action team typically are responders that help at home fire events and are the first ones out there in the field. But then as things get more involved, as we realize there's more families that are being impacted that we might not have known through the duty officer line, how do we transition to a sheltering event? What does that handoff look like? We don't have too many examples in recent times of this in Louisiana, but from your perspective as leaders, seeing it from the DAT side and the sheltering side, what are some of the triggers that you advocate that we look out for that tells us that we're going to graduate to a sheltering need?
I'll take that or start that. And I'm lucky that I have done sheltering work. I'm doing sheltering work, and I'm also doing casework.
Yes.
And so on occasion, some of the casework is multifamily fires, which could have turned into a sheltering situation. Okay. But if I was in the shelter, I would want to have one-on-one time with the DAT personnel, our team personnel, and I want them to give to me an assessment of the general population that has been impacted. If whatever they have experienced, I want them to consolidate that and pass the core of that on to me. And and that would be from their perspective of first responders on the scene. That will help me set a foundation and go from there.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
really good for that casework side, knowing like the impact of populations. Oh, sorry, Sharon, were you about to say?
Oh, I just wanted to piggyback on that. Uh, that when we're scaling up, that we need to really ask those questions of what, who, when, where. What kind of disaster is this? Is it what kind of sheltering will be needed? Is it evacuation? Is it an overnight? Is there power? What's the scope? Estimating the number of people that might need it, and if they have any special needs. Is this something we need immediately? Where? Where could the shelter be? Is it something that we need to have a shelter right near there, as in a multi-family fire, or a hurricane in which our shelter won't be in the direct area?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions that, the question said one thing, and there are just too many things. We need to know resources, etc. There's a lot.
Yeah. For our DAT leads, one question, then a quick follow-up. Do you have any indicators that like you realize, oh, this is going to be bigger than a DAT response that you look out for? And then a follow-up question. Do you have any ideas of how we could use shadowing or something else to help new volunteers understand that scaling up process and relaying to the sheltering team?
Yeah, so one of the big indicators for an event might be scaled up to need sheltering requirements for DAT responses with these multifamily unit fires. If they're above like 5 or more units, that typically is going to start triggering a sheltering kind of need or event. Mass casualty events are also going to be another way that we're going to be looking at scaling in our response, and we're going to tailor that. However, my biggest piece of advice that supervisors should impart upon all their trainees and their current DAT responders anyways is be best friends with your duty officer. Give them a call if at any time you feel like, oh, this event is more than I think me and my partner can handle right now. Maybe we'll, on the duty officer side, be able to deploy and dispatch another team to help you if there happens to be a lot more cases that need to be dealt with. Or if it truly is getting to that point where, oh, an initial incident report, an IIR needs to be filed, we can talk with our RLOC and figure out what do we do, how do we actually build this up. It won't be a decision point necessarily directly from an individual, whether that be the person on the ground, DAT, the duty officer. It is a coordinated mechanism that needs to be communicated from our responders on the ground to the duty officer up the chain of command to get more resources. So if you don't have this number that I'm about to put in the chat saved in your phone, it is the duty officer phone line. Everybody should have it. Speed dial, basically, whenever you're going to be on call. Make sure that everybody has it in their phone and on your team. And anytime you have a question, give the duty officer a call. They'll be able to help you in that process of understanding where we need to go. As for what we can do with our trainees and shadowing, yeah, like we may not have had those situations recently in the Louisiana history of scaling up a DAT response into a bigger response. But that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be opportunities. The more times that we bring on our observers, our trainees, and get them to understand the decision matrix that we have to go through when assessing a disaster and understanding the types of responses that we can provide, the better it's going to be for our trainees. Always try and identify who's in the pipeline in my DRA. Hey, are they available? Come on, let's go do this response with our other in-person responder or virtual responder as needed. Joe, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, well, that's all great. Well, I guess also as far as shadowing, make the DAT manager on that call feel a part of the transition. Maybe have them do a joint voice call with the duty officer and the mass care person.
Anything to add from Sharon or Judith?
It's perfect.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Then I know we're already a little over, but this is the final takeaway question that I hope that all of you can help in supporting our supervisors. Um, if you could eliminate one misconception that supervisors have about onboarding or shadowing for new volunteers, what would it be?
Assuming that your volunteer can successfully and timely navigate volunteer connection.
Yeah, that's a big one. Help them like learn our tools.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming that your volunteers are available 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not. We need to remember that they also have jobs and families, and this is a volunteer thing. So we want to be very cognizant of their time and of their wants and needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say you don't have to do this alone either to onboard your trainees. There's an entire cadre of other volunteer leaders who can help support you in this process. Our supervisors, our DPMs and DPXs, they are busy. We understand that. Rely on those of us who have identified ourselves as people who want to continue on in the training. You know, if you are having new trainees come on and you need help with a DAT or DDO fundamentals course, we have an entire cadre of specialty instructors who can help with that process, who can do those one-on-ones, who can help facilitate the shadowing. You know, one thing that we've been working on the DDO and DAT side is I keep plugging it, this DAT landing page, there's pathways that we are trying to streamline the process and make it as simple as possible, not just for our trainees, but for our current volunteers and for our supervisors. Show people that there are resources that we are putting together as like a one-stop shop where they can access information, they can see what trainings they need. If they need more help, there are phone numbers and like lines of communication that they can do or find there. So that would be the misconception I would eliminate from supervisors. Like there are others who can help facilitate the training and onboarding process as well.
One thing I'll add just real quickly also is that you know, 5 minutes can make a difference. And so if you can connect with those trainees, those volunteers that are in the training continuum, just 5 minutes at their convenience once a week is probably going to go a long way.
Final question. What is your top recommendation for a supervisor who says, I just don't have time to manage trainees who haven't finished their classes yet?
Oh, I'm sorry. I gave my answer in advance. That was kind of my.
You're good. Sorry.
Persevere.
Love that.
Be available.
Mhm.
I think I kind of gave my response to that both ways of just, you know, use other volunteers who can step up to help take the burden off of you as a supervisor. But I think that one thing that I would like to close out on in the DAT side is just we need to really just understand the trainees when they are coming on. It might be daunting. It might seem like they have a lot of questions, but if we can model some of the best practices of utilizing the DDO phone line if you have questions when you're on a response. If you know how to navigate RC Respond and you effectively train your trainee to go in and read duty officer notes and how to add their own DAT responder notes. These are the practices that we can start early on that will make your trainee feel both competent and confident when they begin to take on that role more fully and end up finishing their training. The more buy-in and investment you can get from the trainee early on, the more likely it is they will complete that training and become part of your workforce.
Yeah, I think one key also, and this is applied, I guess this is the application of everything that we talk about from training, is that for me, one of the most rewarding things is that if I'm trained to the point to where I can make that a transformational visit rather than transactional. In other words, don't be glued to my phone or be worried about whether this piece of software is going to go south or not, but be able to actually communicate. I believe that makes it a more rewarding experience for the volunteer.
Absolutely. Very well said. Again, thank you, all four of you. Joe, Stephen, Judith, Sharon, for being here today to talk about this important discussion. DAT sheltering, it's the number one services that we need to make sure we do right, both for our clients, but also for our workforce, the people that raise their hand wanting to be a part of this mission. And all of you have shown up time and time again how reliable you are and how valuable it is to have great connected supervisors like yourselves. So thank you for being here to on this panel discussion. For all of you joining us, be sure to join us next week. Again, same time, same place, Friday at 2 p.m., where we are going to be joined by Chad Lazard and how we support the busy volunteer. We talked a little bit about this time about supervisors, how busy we are, but also our volunteers that we lead are equally busy. So how do we make those schedules match and still get to the mission? I'm Sava Poliviyama, your Disaster Workforce Engagement Manager. Hope to see you again next week. Anyone want to say any final words to close this out?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sava.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.